Hey there, and welcome to my episode 3 review of the show The Last of Us. And yeah, I'm a week behind, I'm trying to catch up, but to say the least, it's been a fun week on the internet because this episode has got a lot of controversy. We'll get into it in a few minutes, and I'll explain to you my personal feelings. But as usual, it starts something different. I've been buying these Skittles packets, even I put it in a Powerade bottle, and yeah, so I'm drinking some orange Skittles with my good old buddy here, Mr. Boston, with the strawberry schnapps, you know what I'm saying. Let's see how Skittles and, freaking alcohol, Mr. Boston tastes, all right? And I gotta say something, I'm on break right now. I just watched this episode. My take on this episode may surprise you because, again, it's been either people really love it or they really hate it. So give me a second to talk about it. You ready? Yeah,
It tastes so good.
it's actually pretty good. Some Skittles and strawberry. So yeah, The Last of Us episode 3. This might be a weird take for some people, but I gotta say, out of the first 3 episodes, it's damn sure the most well acted, it's damn sure the most emotional, it's very heartfelt, but it's not a real good adaptation of the source material. So let me get into it and just tell you how I feel, why, and enjoy my intro. The first 17 minutes is Joel and Ellie, and they're still recovering from the loss of Tess on the previous episode. The one thing I still don't like about Ellie and the way Bella Ramsey's playing her is she's still, I guess, more heartless. She's not as innocent as she was in the game. And Joel is still a lot more passive and not, as aggressive and not as mean and world weary as I would like him to be. Because Ellie has this scene where they're stopping off, they're getting some supplies, and she sees an infected, and infected is under rubble. And instead of being scared of this thing, instead of being freaked out, she's curious and she walks up to it. And again, good job on the makeup department. But she takes a knife and she cuts its head open, and you see some blood, and she wants to be just stabbing it out of I don't know, malice or something, or kind of anger. And it just feels very out of place and out of character for Ellie to be this aggressive. And I just didn't understand why they're doing that for and why they're making her so more just angry than in games. But now, this is where the controversy comes in, because after 17 minutes, we get this character called Bill, who's played by Nick Offerman, and you know him from, Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec. And we get to see the first 10 minutes of, hey, the apocalypse happened, it's been 4 years, and Bill is what they would call a prepper. The kind of guy where doomsday prepper. He's got underground bunkers and security cameras and doesn't like the government and thinks 9/11 is a conspiracy, things of that nature. But after everything goes down, he's doing things like he is hunting, he's growing carrots, he's going to the local Home Depot and getting supplies and duct tape. He's just being a big, manly man, and truth be told, it's good to see this character, Bill, channel his inner Ron Swanson.
I see what you did there.
After some time has passed, about 4 years, Bill meets a character called Frank, because Frank, what he does is he falls into one of Bill's traps. And this is where things start deviating from the game, and I can see some people getting pissed off, because inside of the game, Bill is a side character. He's maybe in the game for 15 or 20 minutes, and the character of Frank, we never actually see him, because basically when Joel is going to see Bill, he needs to get this car battery, and he's trying, to escort Ellie across the country. And eventually we go to a house and we see that fact that Frank was bit, he was infected, and he hung himself, and he also left Bill this very nasty note. Now, Bill says the fact that me and Frank were partners, but they never say if they were gay or in a relationship, but they were partners.
Who the hell's Frank? He was my partner.
The note entails things along the line of Bill, I hated you, I couldn't stand you, I'm glad I got infected.
And go fuck yourself.
In the show, it's a very different situation because, after so many years of lonesomeness and being alone, basically Bill falls in love with Frank. And it's hard because it's a very beautiful love story. And some people out there, and this is the day of the internet, and it's 2023, it's going to happen. Some people have a big problem seeing two men kiss. Some people have a problem with two men being in a relationship.
But you told me we hate the gays.
As somebody who doesn't care about these things, I wouldn't have cared if it was Bill and a woman or Bill and a man. It's just two people that are very lonely, one person who's been isolated for years at a time, and he falls in love with somebody. And it's a very beautiful love story. And this is the problem, is that it's a very beautiful love story that many people would question, well, if this love story was so important, if you cared so much about this, why wasn't this a bigger part of the game? For many people, it feels like a massive episode of filler, because it's a good 50-minute episode, it's a good 50-minute story in isolation, but it's not a very good adaptation of The Last of Us story, because again, The Last of Us game is through the eyes of Joel. About 99% of it, as you're playing with Joel, a couple times you play Sarah in the beginning, and during one sequence you play Ellie, but it's still about Joel and Ellie. It's a very beautifully acted episode. Eventually, more time goes by, and eventually Frank starts getting sick. And he has this big talk with Bill, like, listen, we don't have access to MRIs and certain medicines. And even, nowadays, before the apocalypse happened, these kinds of things can't even be cured with modern technology, let alone 20 years into the future where supplies are limited. So what does Frank want? He's had a very good life. He's had a very good time with Bill. And there's a couple scenes that hit me so fucking hard and so emotional, because like they decide to have their one last dinner, and they want to have it where Frank wants Bill to take a bunch of medicine, crush it up, pour it in some wine, and just go out on his own terms, because who wants to just rot to death and go through that much agonizing pain? And he just tells Bill, he's like, you know what? I love you. I've loved you. I've had plenty of bad days, but I've also had more good days with you than bad days than with anybody else.
I've had bad days with you, too. But I've had more good days with you than with anyone else.
And Bill starts crying his eyes out. And I'm watching Nick Offerman like, dude, hats off to you. Good fucking acting. I mean, Nick Offerman, going from Ron Swanson to this kind of acting, guy's a legend.
He's a legend.
After they have their last supper, they pour some wine, and then Frank realizes the fact that, Bill, what are you doing? He wanted poisoning the wine for himself. Frank is kind of upset, but he's like, well, from an objective standpoint, it's very romantic. And it is very heartfelt to see Nick Offerman in the character of Bill say, listen, for the past 20 years, I'm an old man. I have no purpose. You were my purpose, and I don't want to live without you. So I can kind of respect it. And this is where people get upset, I guess, for the video game version of Bill, because the video game version of Bill was kind of a fucking prick, kind of an arrogant asshole, and not the kind of guy that would offer himself for a relationship. But again, that's video game Bill versus, a TV show Bill. So after that, Joel's been to the compound a few times. He shows up with Ellie and he finds a note. And Ellie reads a note off to Joel and says, hey, don't check the bedroom. We kept the window open so it wouldn't stink. And he gives a kind of a comical, but also a heartfelt note to Joel, because he tells him, hey, I really didn't like you, but I guess we're kind of friends. And I'm assuming, Joel, you will read this because you know the ways around my booby traps. And it's still very heartfelt where he says that, guys like us need a purpose. I found my purpose in protecting Frank. I fell in love with him as much as you found a purpose in protecting Tess. Because remember, at this point, it's not like they have phones and they can call each other. Last time Bill seen Joel, he was with Tess and he didn't know about Ellie. So Ellie and Joel have some small exchanges. They go through Bill's stuff. What they do is inside the game, Joel and Bill have to get a car battery, versus in the show, Bill leaves Joel the car battery. He charges it. Him and Ellie take a shower. They grab their supplies and they're off to go. And that's pretty much it. So yes, The Last of Us episode 3, I get for some people, it's not a good adaptation from the game. And for some people, technically speaking, you could watch episode 2 and really skip this episode and go into episode 4 and not really notice anything. For a lot of people, it is filler. From a gamer, I do admit that a lot of it feels tacked on, and I don't understand why they told this romantic story and why all this extra footage of basically one side character of Bill and one character that you never even seen of Frank. Why give them a whole 45-minute episode? But also, objectively, if you didn't play the game, this is a very beautiful and well-written episode. But overall, it doesn't add anything to the story of The Last of Us, and it really doesn't add anything to the story of Joel and Ellie. So I see both sides. I see people who love it. I see people who hate it. I'm in the middle. As I try being as objective and fair and unbiased as possible. So yeah, as a gamer, but as a non-gamer, very good fucking job. And I love Nick Offerman. And as I said, out of all 3 episodes, easily the most heartfelt, the most gut-wrenching, the most emotional episode out of all 3. So I'm on the fence about this, I love it and dislike it at the same time, but I still would recommend it to most people. It's one of the episodes where I'm realistic, I'm not stupid. It's not going to be for everybody.
It's just not for everyone.
Reviewing every episode as somebody who knows the source material is very hard to try to be as unbiased as possible, but I am unbiased, and it's, some people, this is the day we live in. Sorry. If you have a problem with 2 straight men kissing for an acting role, that's on you. I can't say nothing about that. Okay. But yeah, I hope you liked my review. I hope you liked as fair as I could have been and unbiased. I still would recommend you check it out. Okay. So as we always do, I'm going to check my watch, finish this drink, pull out Bender, and say goodbye. Okay. Have a good time. And episode 4, I'm not gonna wait a week. It'll be up pretty soon. All right. So let's drink this.
This calls for a drink.
Okay. in terms of my job,
I hate my job.
and then I have to go back to work.